My name is Chubby.
And I'm Vanessa, and welcome to
No
No
filters,
Filters, No
no
Fears.
fears podcast
Today's elephant, I can
is a
see
one.
you. I can see you too.
Thank you. Thank you for letting
Uh,
us know.
yeah,
Yes, today's elephant is a one. It's a one.
it's a one. I mean, if you're gonna get triggered by technology, I'm really sorry. It's not our intention. I mean, we were just very triggered by technology.
Again, the irony of this episode, I wanted to beat up the computer, but it wasn't the computer, it was the Wi Fi.
The Wi-Fi, it might have been my computer. I don't even know. My computer, I love. I we can't say brand names because we're gonna get sued.
What we love,
It's really funny
whatever.
because the abbreviation of this particular company, I guess you could say the hijo de puta brand.
Mm,
It's always been good to me. I really love it. I've had this computer for almost 10 years now. I want to say
oh, yeah, it's time for you to upgrade.
it's time to do a little upgrade. And everybody, well, not everybody, some people will be happy to know it might be an Apple just because it's good for dubbing and I dub from home. So,
Yeah.
other than that, I'm all about Windows.
Oh, I was like, what is she saying? What is that? What are you
I don't
doing?
know. I don't know much about technology. I don't like I how about how does this work for you? You're the techie one between the two of us.
The irony of that as well. Yes, between the two of us, I am
Between
more
the two of us.
into. I could do more technology stuff, like edit videos or like figure out how to work the program. But I don't know shit about
Right.
technology either.
But I was I'm like many people, I'm sure. I'm sure I'm not alone in this. Please in the comments let me know if I am. But because of the pandemic, it kind of forced me into a position to have to like up the ante in my technology, my technologic, do technologic, because I
And
didn't know.
hello.
Yes, you said and I shushed.
Oh no, because you're frozen and I'm having like I don't know if you're done or if the words. Because see,
I'm
guys, we're
frozen.
having.
Am I frozen for real?
Now you're not.
Okay, good. Oh look, I just
I can't. I can't
I
with this happen.
I at the beginning of the pandemic, like a lot of so going into the studio was one thing to record, but then a lot of readings and things started happening on the computer, and Zoom, Zoom, and Meets, Google Meetings or whatever, and Facebook Esto, and Hangouts, which is another application for people to meet and then you can play games. All these things started happening, and artists that do live performance were like forced into a medium that we don't really understand. And
Right.
I'm talking about like I don't want to say purists because that's so shush, but like the people that just do theater, right? And I'm not talking
Yeah.
about the tech, the people that run the tech aspects of theater, right? Lighting or whatever, which still doesn't mean you know what the hell to do on a computer. Yeah, you know what to do with your audio stuff, you know what to do with the lighting equipment, but it doesn't translate to figuring out how to make something like Zoom, performing in a little box, feel like you're performing in a
Yeah.
live situation. It's been very interesting. And teaching through here, right? Because you don't have an audience clapping. So you're saying
Right.
jokes and stuff and it doesn't land. It's just like meh, dead air. Um, no, I
But
don't
isn't
know.
it interesting how everybody has obviously adapted to this? Because now I'm watching like what is it called, like show games, and everybody's like virtually like attending.
Oh yeah, I do a lot of like virtual game nights, and either it's people. transferring board games, literal board games, and playing them on here, or there's virtual ones where you play it through the computer. I actually participated. One of the theater companies did like a game show, right? Like a trivia game show, and I participated. You know, people, you get creative, you get used to it, like everything else in life.
Mm-hmm.
I like you get used to crap. Like I was watching a movie, and I wasn't the only one. You're like, wait, where are their masks? Why is nobody wearing masks? Why are they all breathing on each other? Like it just it becomes like second. So the same thing with the technology. I've grown more accustomed to it now. When I think of creating something, I think in terms of how can I make it work online. Isn't
Right.
that crazy?
We have to get adapted to that. I don't know. It will be weird. I'm a photographer. How am I gonna switch that for me? I could do like products.
Do you know that
Some
I
new
heard about
stuff.
online photo shoots? I think I talked to you about that at one point.
How does
Online
that even
photo
make
shoots.
sense?
The
Mm,
model would be on one side and you're taking like screenshots, pretty much is what it is, which you have no control over lighting really, or you have to depend that the model has a grasp of that, right? And that they have a setup and a blue
right.
screen or whatever. I saw it done. My friend Supernova Jazz, Supernova Jasmine, she's an astrologer, but she's also a model, and she was doing for a time purely virtual photo shoots. It blew my mind.
I'd rather stand
Guayana,
6 feet. No, I know. I mean, they're way, but to me, I would be like 10 feet apart. I'll get my zoom lens. We could work it out. I'll get my zoom lens 10 feet
más
apart.
Zoom.
That's why it will
Oh my
work.
God,
It will work.
but I mean, it's really funny because prior to the pandemic, you know, all the back and forth was about how everybody, you know, how now it's even affecting, like being on the phone is affecting people's physical, right?
Right.
People have a perpetual curve in their neck remain like this, right? And how it's something that's meant to like help us get connected and be together pulls us away because you'll be at a table and everybody's on their damn phone at the table. You're hanging out with your friends. Guilty. I am guilty. I am
Right.
trying to, you know, I've been trying to wean off, but you catch yourself and you're like, I'm in a group of people. What the fuck am I doing on the phone? Right? People on dates. I see people on dates at the restaurant and both people are like this.
Might as
And
well
I'm
not
like,
even be
cuánto,
at a date.
cuánto amor.
Unless, unless you're texting each other some memes at the table. It's like, hey, I thought about this and I'm sending it to you. I don't know.
I
Listen.
can't say I love this dirty thing, so I'm gonna text it to you.
Right? You never know. You never know what's being
I
said
mean, and now they
through
have those like toys where you can like from the phone. So
I
no.
know what you're talking about.
It's better that way. You don't gotta know. You don't got you don't
But
gotta know.
listen, no, I know what you're talking about, but I'm just saying
Ah,
technology has gotten to the point where we have to get used to now the way we're living now. Like it's just I don't know, I find it so freaking weird. Like we're
oh,
adapting. Hey, we're all making money though, so that's what matters.
yeah. I mean, we talked about this earlier. It's a balance. I'm all about
Right.
technology and technological advancement. I mean, you know, we're talking pretty basic phone, computer, but there's bigger things above, you know, my scope of knowledge and understanding, you know, things that create efficiency within large companies that in
Oh,
turn benefit us without us even knowing. So amen to that. Wonderful technological advancements for medicine in the medical field,
oh,
but
definitely.
in the day-to-day use, in the
Yeah,
interpersonal situations, it's definitely a balance. It's not evil, but it's scary. What creatures
very
say
much so.
hi?
Oh, you wanna read it?
My roommate had a huge migraine problem because his neck was deformed from always gaming and being on his phone. It's I
Balance.
it's not I've never I've it's not the first time I've heard it. And the thing is, my neck has really been hurting, and most of my work and most of my everything I do on my phone. So I'm well aware that I'm causing this to myself. And they but it's not even adults. We're talking about little kids have this curvature
Oh, that's
because
true.
when I see a child that is 6 years old with a cell phone, o sea, un iPhone 12, 6 years, what the hell are you doing with this with its iPhone 12, little person? Like
Right. I mean, even though we don't know their circumstances, but I don't know. You shouldn't
I
have
mean,
a
I
phone at
understand a
6 years.
parent handing their phone off to their kid to play, but that is their personal
Yeah.
device.
Who you calling? Like
Who you calling other than abuela? Like, who are you calling? But besides that, it takes away. Isn't that the stage where they're learning how to talk to other?
people, right? Children. I mean, that's true. They're learning from the environment, but right now they're like on their phone learning from that. They could learn how to freaking fix a phone before the age of 10 rather than like talking to people, how
But
to
that's
be
another
polite
thing.
and manners.
These kids are literally born. I swear, they're born knowing how technology works. You don't
In
have to
this day and
explain
age,
too much.
man.
Swipey, swipey. They know better than you what the hell's going on that tablet.
It's
Isn't
the,
that
it's
crazy?
the, it's, I remember going to my brother's house. He has a Mac, and I couldn't find the button to the fucking computer because it was like seemingly on it. He's like, "La pasaste." I'm like, "Where? What do you mean I passed it?" Literally right there. The way that they
I am a
incorporate
forever
it.
Android user. Forever Android.
Yeah, me
Put
too.
an iPhone in my hand, I become an idiot. I have no
Me
idea.
too. Me too. I don't even know the buttons up, down. They're not the same like Android. They're simple and easy to get to. Trust
Yeah.
me, you want to get me frustrated? Let's get technology. Vamos a ver como, I can't. I can't even, like,
I
I
and
need
it's
a
crazy
breather.
because like I said, it's a balance. Because for example, I love video games. And
Right.
from children to adults, you can see the benefit of, and before, like when I was a kid, gaming was something that you did with people, the Street
Right.
Fighter thing, and you're playing with someone. So there was
Yeah.
still that, you know, engagement. And now you have online games. You can play with people that are in
Anyone in
Malaysia.
the world? Right.
And that's great. That's awesome. But then you have the extremes, right? This is where previous episodes come in, like the addiction episode, where you get those
Mm-hmm.
extremes where it's like it no longer becomes, yeah, I played for 5 or 6 hours today. Tomorrow I probably won't play. No, it's every day, morning, afternoon, and night. Now there's people that make their money that way. So good on
Good for you.
you for making a business out of
Right.
that. But it affects families. It affects it's the balance. It's the
Mm-hmm.
Libra
And
in
when
me. I
you,
look for the balance.
yeah, but you said 6 hours. I'm like, in one day, in one city,
Ya
maybe one or
me
two,
dolió la
but
nalga to
six?
think about it.
No, I'm okay without, no. One or two. If you're playing professionally, great. But if you're not, that's a lot of gaming for one day.
Yeah. Well, and now you have other applications that make gaming or making connecting with people easier, like Twitch. My cousin is a Twitch celebrity. Follow him, the Dapper Rapper. Right? And he started just like, oh, I'm gonna show myself rapping for a little bit. And it's become his entire business. And
Oh, well.
he lives from it, and it's great. But he recognized that he was in there too often. So he started doing projects outside of it and bringing it into the Twitch. Like I said, balance, man, balance.
Listen, when it comes to technology, absolutely, I don't know anything. It took me 6 months to figure out which headphones I wanted because I was picky because I know exactly how I want. It has to be easy. I don't know. I wanted to charge easy. Something not too crazy. So can you imagine a person that doesn't know anything about technology to somebody who's like working on that, like they know what they're doing?
Listen, when
Don't
they
even.
told me that remote recording was becoming a thing in most studios, and they're like, "Oh yeah, get the Pro Tools," and
the
I downloaded Pro Tools. What? What is this? Right? There are degrees for this. YouTube University will not always cut it.
no
Like it's
no
real. It's real because I
YouTube
can watch a
video.
YouTube video 50 times and I'm still gonna be like this. Eh? It's my
Fact.
hats off to people who like understand these kind. I can't even connect my own television.
Mm.
It's a sad affair. It really is. I am grateful to every person with tech savvy in my life. Thank you for your efforts. I've grown. I've grown a lot. Shubi, you are a witness to this, where I have grown. I make those fun little videos, alas, with the assist of Boost, but still,
Love it. I love them. Oh my god! If you guys didn't see the latest video of this, you have to check it. Episode
no,
25. It was so good. I was so
I'm
proud. I was like,
slowly learning
"Woo!"
how to edit, like little by little. I gotta learn the
and that's
things.
and that's the thing. That's where we balance out because I knew about editing videos and photos and all that shit because that's what I work for. So yeah, that I'm good at.
And I have more of an
Other than that,
understanding of, for example, the algorithms or whatever for social media,
I don't know
right?
none of that
So,
shit.
see, there's balance.
Yeah.
Balance. I know that a lot of the tech advancements in medicine trip my mom out
Oh
because, oh, hey, hold on. Is our special guest is in the waiting room and I hadn't even noticed.
yes, I told you.
I didn't look at my phone. I'm sorry, I'm fired. Uh, to
You're
finish
fine.
my thought, back in the day, the X-ray machines, like you had to be taken to like now they bring the machine to you in the room.
Ay, me
Y te
mito.
hacen clinky,
That's
chunky, chunky. Crazy.
that.
Crazy.
It is so weird. That trips me the f out when it comes to like those type of technology, like in the medical field. Hell no. I don't know. It's
Oh,
creepy.
before
Good.
we
It's
bring in
good.
our special guest, Krisha. Yeah, for I've seen friends lose relationships from gaming so much, even if they were making money from it, playing every day for 8 hours plus a day because it's so much pressure being on Twitch to keep your subscribers. It really is. To get to the level on Twitch where you are making profit, you have to have absolute dedication and entrega to that kind of medium. And it is hours and hours of gameplay or like saying you're going to stream because it's live streaming. So you're not pre recording anything. You're
Right.
live streaming this. So you are stuck there. You beepy breaks and that's it. Okay.
We're
So,
ready.
so we're going to bring in a special guest. You've heard our experience with tech and you've seen it. For those of you who have been following and watching us since the beginning, those videos that Chubi posted earlier of our, I mean, we've gotten better. Now we got actual mics with pop filters, but the struggle
I
was
know,
very
right?
real. And today we were reminded of that as we were trying to go live, and there was like, technical difficulties. So we're not only going to talk about that, we're going to talk about all the things. It's not called just tech talk for no reason. It's like a TED talk, but with a tech brain. So let's welcome into No Filters, No Fears, our special guest, Carlos Leal. Hello.
Hello,
Welcome.
Hello.
Carlos.
Hi,
How are
Kelly. Hi,
you?
Vanessa. Can you both hear me all right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at that voice. Hey, it used to be in a radio somewhere talking to people.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Oh
Thank
wait,
you for inviting me.
I don't know how to do
So,
this. Okay, let me
some
go.
of y'all might remember Carlos from episode 10, the Pachanga episode.
Mm-hmm.
Carlos did not win, but he fought the good fight. He fought the good fight. And he's a big supporter of No Filters, No Fears, which we appreciate. But he is also a tech genius.
Oh, please do share your genius with us, please, because we need
So
help.
tell us a bit about you, Carlos, and what you do and your experience with tech and we'll go from there.
Well, I guess maybe not really as a genius, but really just being a curious mind and really passionate about seeing the wonders of what technology can be. And it's interesting because it's something that over my lifespan I've seen even the younger generations do something that was also very akin to me. As a young kid, my dad had this old at this time, but at its moment, it was this, marvelous contraption, this device that was plugged into the wall and it had a screen and, little green lines came out of it. And, there was some sort of Sesame Street game on it. And, one day it didn't work and I just like took it apart and tried to tinker with it and make it work. And I don't know, I took it apart entirely, put it back together, and it just started working. And that's how I
He makes
got.
it sound so normal. Let me tell you how I would have thrown it against the wall, and that would have been the end of that.
Well, and that's the thing. Like for me, that curiosity just took me somewhere. About technology always was a very big passion of mine, and I never understood why, and then it became really apparent. It's a combination of things, really. Technology really is there to solve problems, but at the same time has always been there to push the envelope, to innovate, to bring new cool things to people, and you know my focus, my career, my current occupation is in business technology, and a lot of the things that come out in the technology world are to solve large business problems. Today we have one of the world's biggest retailers, Amazon. How do they have such a large catalog of products that you can browse instantaneously from the palm of your hand, and with a couple of pushes of your finger, you can have it even the same day or in a couple of hours delivered to your home. That's something that 20 years ago was not something that you could do, and there's a lot of technology behind that. Just that's really exciting and fascinating for me, and that's something type of work I do. But at the same time, like, I'm also fascinated by video games. I'm fascinated by music technology, how you know sounds can be created by these musical instruments that are just engineered and made made possible. It's amazing things that are you know that we have today that we didn't have before. So it's a lot of cool things that drive me to look at technology and continue to see what's next, what comes, what will be available tomorrow. See, we didn't imagine that uh, our world would be as disrupted by the appearance of new things. So I was reading this book called "Thank You for Being Late: The Optimist Guide to the Age of Acceleration,"
For Chewy's
and
Book Corner.
for Chewy's Book Corner. And even this book is not really as recent. I mean, it's really from 2016, but it covers such an interesting phenomenon about technology in our era. And there's a lot of things that kind of align that wouldn't be possible if a lot of things that happened that took place in 2007, and among them mainly had been the making the mobile revolution, making iPhones, so to say, available to people. This is making computers, technology in the palm of your hand available to people. And starting there, putting a platform that anybody could put apps, the internet, uh, available to anybody, really. And that started giving people ideas. What do we use this for? What can we put in here? Oh, we can put all this music. Oh, the music can come from the cloud. Oh, we can now call a car to pick us up, at the touch of a button. Oh, now I can stream this content online. Oh, I can set up a blog and start talking about whatever. Oh, I can, go fund me for my whatever cause I'm trying to promote. There's so many things that came up starting from that moment, and that's shaped a lot of our world today. and it's impacted our society. It's impacted uh, how we behave. It's done a lot of good, and it's also uh, put us in a place like, you know, how does this change us as people? So it's a lot of
Yeah.
fascinating things that technology can do, but there's also, you know, the whiplash. Like how does tech um, behave for us? What happens when it fails us? How
Um,
do we rely so much on it? You know, and it gets to the point like, who are we without technology, and all these things that start to haunt us in terms of, and in many ways, like I wouldn't be entirely, how do I put this, like people fearing like the rise of artificial intelligence. You know, what does that
Mm,
mean for us, or what does that
it's a very
exactly?
real fear.
Well, it's
that's
not.
scary.
it, it
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 is
it
for me.
it is a very real thing that is already
It's
happening.
a very plausible. Exactly. It's a thing that happens.
It's
Uh,
already happening in a lot of these big companies. Like, you'd be surprised to find out that, you know, Google, Facebook, Amazon, all these companies use hundreds and hundreds of different modules of artificial intelligence on a daily basis to improve their business and to rapidly scale their operations. So
yeah.
when does it become scary to think that, wow, now you can have this new thing called a digital workforce, like artificial intelligence actually becoming cognitively capable enough to assume the jobs of humans. You know, it's scary to think that that can happen. You know,
Um, I
food
had
I
for
have
thought.
so
two
much,
questions.
so many thoughts on all this.
So many thoughts. Yeah, I'm
So
just
do
giving
I.
you ideas of everything we could talk about. But
Whew.
You go
What did
first.
Danny write?
Oh, the Skynet. He was saying Skynet is a thing, and the T-300s will come for us. Thanks. He's yeah, okay. Thank you for that. We needed to get
Trying to
scared.
scare me, Danny. Go ahead. Ask. I was gonna ask a question that you had sent to ask Carlos, but let it come out of your
Oh no, I
mouth.
just oh no, I just had like a statement to say about like I didn't. Everything's an app. Like you don't
There's
realize
an
how
app
many
for
apps
that.
you have. You don't, you don't realize how many apps you have in your phone until you're looking and you're like 175. And then you realize you're like, holy shit, how the hell did I get to? Everything's literally an app, and it's just driving me crazy. But anyway, what was the question that we were saying that we had asked?
Um, the question was, what misconceptions have you
Oh,
heard or run into about technology? And to that question, I'll add either existing technology or technology that's kind of like on the horizon.
well, now that I was speaking a little bit about AI, because that's probably forefront on a lot of people's minds. Um, there's still
mm-hmm.
about a lot about AI that we don't know exactly how it's going to pan out. But let me give you at least one of my perspectives, and this is something that's been among a lot of industry peers and leading minds. Um, the thoughts are artificial intelligence has demonstrated great capabilities in machine learning, right? Assuming large volumes of data and being able to model processes, model data flows that alleviate and solve a lot of problems, right? And this keeps evolving and evolving, and it keeps being developed into incredible possibilities, right? So uh, I had an experience maybe a couple years ago in which I learned about some companies' ambitions as I was talking about this digital workforce project. Um, it gives you an idea of thinking like, well, if somebody has a job today that can be replaced by a machine, how does that shape or change society, right? it could completely start to phase out people's occupations. And then you think, what are those people going to do? What are going to be the jobs of the future, right? And then you start to think, well, all these things like 5G enabling all these devices that interconnect to the cloud and allow cars to drive themselves and all these things to self-regulate. It's scary to think that that's
Scary.
going to be happening, but it's really very possible. It just really takes legislation to allow it, but
Right,
the
because
tech is
they're
already
equally
there.
as scared.
No, but
My question is this:
right.
based on so Bill Gates, to quote Mr. Bill Gates, you know, technology. What is it? I forgot what it is. Technology. Ay, coño, ¿cuál es la? Something about it has no sé qué cosa, but it doesn't have imagination.
Well,
Is that what he said?
that's exactly where I was going with putting the context to where what the misconception is. So the misconception is really around what can AI what is really missing for AI,
Right.
and that's really a lot of the human element.
Right.
So
It says memory, but no imagination. So it can memorize what it's given and regurgitate. Is that
well,
is that
but that even then, there's still a lot of research that's demonstrated that AI can be placed in such a cognitive function that can really have conversational and understanding. And I think that in maybe less than a decade's time, you'd actually have a fully functioning, you know,
that's that Westworld shit?
bot that can no, for real. So my whole thing, I don't want to keep going long-winded, but I need to put the context. One of the greatest minds of our time, Albert Einstein, had this quote said, "It has become appallingly obvious that our technology has exceeded our humanity." And that's one of the things I see about technology and humanity is like, even what we were talking about earlier, like people look, looking down on their phones all the time, you know, losing a lot of the interaction elements. But you know what? There's still a lot of people out there that are pursuing passions with great elements of creativity. You know, still producing great works of art, producing incredible feats of cinematography, photography, music, pursuing great feats in athleticism and sports, in activism and politics and in all other humanity fields, right? So those are things that AI has yet to touch. And I think that in this next age in which we have, you know, AI surfacing, the biggest misconception is that AI is completely going to drown everything that we stand for. I think that there's still a lot of our humanity that has to contribute to basically nourishing our society. So basically the misconception is that AI is completely going to replace us, you know, and that we're just going to be harvested for our energy like the Matrix and something like that. I don't
Like
think that's going to
be
necessarily
chipped.
happen within the next, you know, 50, 100 years. I don't think it's necessarily going to materialize that way. I think that really what we're going to be guided to is that technology is going to still be an aid and an ally and definitely a tool for humans to live better, healthier, and more productive lives. And I hope that that's still the path. And again, there's still a lot of technology practitioners out there that have created something that maybe loses its way at some point, but the good thing about our current world is as interconnected as it is, and there's a lot of voices speaking out for things that just are plain wrong. And that's one of the greatest things I've seen, you know, in this world. Right? People voicing out. There's still freedom of expression in many parts of the world that people could just go out and say, hey, you know what, this is wrong. We believe this, and you have surmountable volumes supporting these things. So that's one of the things that I personally think this is one of the misconceptions about current tech as well.
Oh,
Biggest
I'm
one.
my
going up,
battery's low. Hold on.
All right.
Hold on
going up,
because Technology is acting a fool right now on me.
Going off of what you were saying, because you're saying that you don't think that the AIs will take over people's jobs. I mean, do you think it will be to a point where they will be completely taking over by them?
Well, I didn't say that
Where's our role?
they wouldn't take away jobs. I definitely believe that jobs will be taken away, unfortunately. But
So where do you think we lie as humans? Where do you think that how we could play a role in society still while AIs are trying to like take over our jobs?
I feel that there's definitely room for our education system to nourish new careers, new, like right now, if you ask like what are the careers of the future, every time they throw out new terms of new career paths that exist. For instance, one of the relatively new ones that came out in the last few years has been data scientist. That wasn't really like an actual career title when I went to college, for instance. Data
Right.
scientist today is basically some sort of professional that is able to make sense of data and drive important conclusions that can be used for uh, either business purposes or for scientific research. Basically, finding trends in data and defining some valuable conclusions from all the information that's out there. And mind you, if you've heard about this term big data, it's really like the collection of, like before in the past, people would only be able to analyze numeric data, table data, things that were input in a format that computers could understand. Today, big data is could be a picture, could be a video, could be an audio clip, anything that could be captured digitally, and these are things that start shaping our education system. And these are jobs that require creativity, that require insight, and these are things that humans still have an edge over AI. However, it's interesting. I was watching this documentary on Netflix the other day. Don't remember the name exactly, but
Uh,
it was about artificial intelligence precisely, and it was fascinating because I'm very passionate about music, and I've always known that there's been ways to I don't know, computerize music, but I was fascinated by seeing an actual robot AI that could improvise and play along other musicians, like marimba, along an orchestra, understanding exactly what the other musicians were playing, because it would actually pick up musical notes and understand the style and timing of what they were doing. And this would be a robot that would actually be a creative robot. So that was like something that I was like, wow, this came a lot sooner than I could imagine. Creativity. It was technically not exactly fully creative. It was more like, something that would blend in, but it would have
Well,
its
that would
its
be
spark of.
like an what is it that like algorithms? Okay, this should
Yes.
be the response to this.
Right. So it was
Right.
something along the lines of it was fed like sheet music from different artists, and then it was kind of given instructions to say, hey, combine the styles of these different artists, and boom, go ahead, play with this band.
Hmm.
yeah, that's creepy. I think that's creepy. That's weird. I can't.
Guys, if anybody has questions, put them in the diggity diggity
The thing is,
in the
I live
comments.
under a rock. Like I live under a rock. Like I got a brand new camera, but it was because of my profession. Other than that, do not ask me about what's out there, what's new. Like I find technology so weird. Like these advancements and stuff. Oh, and I was gonna ask you, Carlos, about the privacy aspect of all these technology. Like right now, we don't know
Security.
who's watching. Right now, we don't know who's watching us besides the people that are like,
Yeah.
obviously logged in.
Well,
How do you think? What's the limit?
that's a very powerful question, and I'll cite a couple of examples for that. So it's no surprise that in the current world, uh, I don't want to say just tech companies, but overall publicly traded companies, the world's Fortune 100 companies, are more powerful and relevant than governments. and yet governments, to some extent, well, to most part, really control or define how states and the world behaves. Right. One of the
Right.
things that's and call it an issue. I want to say more of a it is what it is that governments, people kind of need to it's really hard to keep up the pace with how the world has changed in the last 2 decades, right? So think about that. Like in the last 5 years, there's been so many. In the last 10 years, there's been so many changes that not even our parents or grandparents would have seen in their lifetime. Like maybe
Yeah.
in our grandparents' lifetime, ooh, they invented the car. Ooh, they invented the TV. In today's world, we're like, oh yeah, every like month they invent something remarkably new, right? And this pace outpaces how fast governments react. So that being said, I feel that all of these companies have created a lot of things that do not have necessarily legislation on the back end that necessarily regulates how certain things work. So, if you ask me, there was recently something that came out that was supposed to be well intentioned. I know you said you shouldn't supposed to say brands and things like that, but I worked for Microsoft a few years back, and high respect for the
No, we
company.
call it little y suavecito.
All right.
Microsoft.
But just recently in the news, this is kind of a little bit of a scandalous thing that came up,
Oh,
in the sense that they released something that was intentioned. This feature for Office 365, which is Microsoft's cloud service for business productivity, Microsoft Teams for conferencing. This is a software that a lot of businesses and companies and schools use, right? They released this feature for, let's say, for helping companies understand how to best support people throughout the COVID pandemic, as a lot of people were working remotely, to better understand metrics of how they worked from home, but that translated into seeing, hey, I want to. They would actually track how much keystrokes and mouse movement and apps they would use daily. So in a way, that's kind of like borderline uh, intrusive surveillance of how,
talk about micromanaging.
yeah, how somebody's actually,
Yeah.
how much they're actually working on an 8 hour
Yeah.
basis. I mean, that's just an assumption, but that could be used for that purpose. So that is that's that privacy, who defines if that's okay or not, right? So to their point, this was supposed to be an opt-in experience, and it's supposed to help IT people better understand the issues that people were facing while working remotely, because it was something that companies were prompted to do all of a sudden, right? But again, that's an example. Another example, people putting things on Facebook, on social media, all this data that you're just putting out there is really creating like a digital persona. And I don't know if you're familiar, I've seen this documentary on Netflix, The Social Dilemma, but they really recreate and capture a lot of harsh truths about how social media really has
Shuby's face.
mishandled privacy of
Mm.
users to an extent that is very pervasive. So there are a lot of countries, and I'm saying countries because again, this is something that really happens with rule of law, but sometimes rule of law is really backed by citizen action, and it's backed by activism, and it's backed by people taking a stance and putting their voice out there. These countries like Austria, Germany have very strong privacy laws, and they've set an example for how people's privacy, especially in the online world, should be handled. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in the rest of the civilized world uh, about people's privacy online. But there's right now not really a good level of assurance that we can have about what
Yeah.
we put out there. You know,
Yeah, Miss United States. Also, I have to say, we have a comment for
Well,
you or a statement. You want to read it first, or you want to
mm,
have something to say?
well, I was gonna say, talking about how having, I understand the security bit, but I've also seen the benefit. Chubi and I were talking about it before, about how it's definitely been an advantage along the lines of news and information
Oh,
getting out from countries that in previous years their strife and struggles haven't been able to be heard. And this whole conversation for me started yesterday with the whole San Isidro movement coming to my screen, and recognizing that, a lot of countries, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Venezuela, and now Cuba was one of those islands that so much was fucking happening and nobody really knew unless you heard it from the people when
right.
they got here. But now they have this new way of communicating this, and using it to get their voices heard and to get support from outside of a country that they have zero support and possibility. So I definitely see the benefits of it, but there is those, the
The
fine
boundary.
line, the fine lines. Krisha, go ahead, you can read. I've read every Krisha comment today.
It's all those boundaries we talk about. Even the government don't have any. No consent there.
Mhm.
Krisha says, do you guys agree with the idea that replacing repetitive and strenuous jobs like machine operators in factories with robotics and AIs is good for society because it's replacing low paying jobs with higher paying ones, which some people view it as heartless? I don't agree.
Hmm.
I don't want no machines taking over what humans, could earn. But how do you guys feel about that? Carlos,
well,
Vanessa.
I have a view that hopefully is not as utopic in my lifetime, but and this is actually something my grandfather used to believe very wholeheartedly. Um, he believed that in the future people would not have to have the same type of you know sweatshop jobs that were had in the industrial revolution, or like
Yeah.
being enslaved by you know the amount of labor they had. He actually believed people would not have to work 40 hours a week, and that they wouldn't have to be paid for their physical and strenuous effort. And he said this even before robots were really a thing. And think about it, we're facing a lot of challenges in our present day. AI and robots are part of the equation. We're facing explosion of population growth. We're facing climate change that a lot of people even don't even believe in. We're facing X number of other problems that are
Yeah.
pushing from all edges, and we can throw technology at a lot of these problems, but maybe if you think about it, we're trying to solve a lot of these problems thinking that we keep living in the same way. So we're saying,
Right.
oh, we're replacing people in factories. So those people, what are they now? Oh, do they go to the streets, or what type of jobs will they have?
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that might have different occupations, but I'm thinking that the models that we have right now have to evolve. The world as
Right.
it's going
But
right
but
now,
to
it's
that point, that's where I think, like, there's so much advancement that where we're lacking is in the educational aspect to the masses, right? Everybody can appreciate their phone and their whatever, but in application to these situations, right? Where if you think about it from the point of view of the companies, right? It's more beneficial to them to have a machine that they do not have to pay. They just have to pay the one time thing, build the machine, it does the work for free,
That's it.
right? So they have, it's cost effective to them. Now they can put that money into something else. Now that makes sense to me for the point of view of the company. Got it. But what does that mean? That now the educational landscape has to change, which is why we're seeing so many more people going into these careers related to tech, right? And but for those of us who are already done with school, as it were, or for the older generations that are not old enough to get retirement yet, or what do they do? And then you are not obsolete because you're a functioning freaking person and you have something to offer. So if it I feel like it rests, who does it rest on to provide these um educational resources to those that don't know? And in order to work in the future, you're going to have some sort of, not basic understanding of certain
Right.
technological um functionings, right? And it's like you can go to school for, you can take a class at, por decir por nosotros, no, Miami-Dade College, right? But and they have the vocational schools that teach it to you, but there's people that are past that already, that are now in tight spots. So who would you, I'm not saying that you're the authority on this, but in your opinion, where do you think that responsibility lies, and how could that be better managed?
Yes, please.
Well, the biggest thing is the pace of change, and the pace of change has been really violent. And I mean, it's interesting because this movie, Back to the Future Part Two.
This movie.
I say this because this is a movie that basically put in 20 years into the future. What does that 2015 look like? And I think the maybe the only thing that it got wrong were, okay, no flying cars, but everything else was kind of spot on.
We've got
And
hovery things, don't we?
but I always go take a little road to answer the question. So, for instance, going back to machines replacing people, like one of the biggest realities of this, in a dramatic change. For instance, rideshare services, right? Uber, Lyft. These companies came out and started this whole gig economy. It changed a model, allowing people, hey, you know what, flexibility in potentially having an income at their own discretion, providing driving services. And now these same companies that created a model are and started pioneering these new technologies in the background were researching and developing a driverless fleet all the time. You know, driverless cars are, as we've seen, they're a thing already. However, legislation is still, probably the red tape that has not allowed it to happen. Even my dad thinks, for instance, like all these cities that have like high occupancy vehicle (HOV) or like toll lanes. He says that the toll lanes will become like where the driverless cars go, right? In the beginning, and then once there's more driverless cars, they actually switch probably so that like those few lanes are for the non-driverless cars, and the majority of the lanes will be for the driverless cars until
Right.
everything is driverless or pretty much automatic.
Makes sense.
But
Still not driving though, so.
where I'm going with this
Or
is like,
getting in one.
so a lot of things will unfortunately or fortunately will become obsolete at a pace that is unpredictable, right? So, for instance, taxi cab drivers didn't imagine that they'd be facing all the competition
Yeah.
that they're facing from services,
Oh, that's
like
true.
careers that are like pharmacy. Right now they're talking about pharmacy technicians being replaced by robots as well, right? So who says that? Who determines that these careers keep up or change or evolve, right? So there's been like, speaking, you were talking about, local universities and stuff. There, some programs get pulled out all the time from these universities. Like, hey, there's no demand, there's no need, there's no foresight for this career to keep going. They just pull the plug on it. But again, the pace of change has been so disruptive. Like, for instance, I was looking the other day. I moved to Texas about a few months ago, and I was looking through my grad school books, and I looked at this book that was supposed to be like the cornerstone of my career, and I looked at this book and I swiped through the pages, and like 80% of the book was obsolete, and this was a book that I had used as a textbook not you know less than a decade before. So I'm thinking like, wow, I went to school, and that I learned is basically, yeah, water under the bridge. It's not something that's relevant if you walk into the workplace today. Funny enough, in this documentary that I was telling you about AI, they're talking about how these companies have been adamant about getting more resources out for schools to have STEM programs, and to have uh, more understanding of the things that are coming and the things that are happening in
Right.
our world. So I still think that there's avenues for the next generation to have the means and the training to be more prepared than potentially this generation has been caught off. Because again, one of the things that's happened is like we've had the internet, and I'm talking about not the initial days of the internet, in the 90s. I'm talking about the internet in the palm of your hand. Like,
Right.
kids in school with phones, that's
Well,
that's
kids
something.
code now. Kids are coding.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it's a thing. It's like it's really like an avenue, having that technology at the palm of their hands, to be able to use it as a tool to find the cure for the next pandemic. One of the things that I was talking about the other day is like, I felt optimistic about the whole COVID thing in general. I mean, right, it's not solved. We're still kind of like on high alert. It's exploding, but I mean, we've survived as a species a lot of diseases before, and I think at this point in time we're equipped with God knows how much more resources and technology and people that have brilliant ideas and much more at their disposal to be able to combat this thing. So I feel that potentially, as scary as the future might look because of all the things that have dawned on us, I think that people will still rise to the challenge and potentially use technology as it has been an ally. And there's actually a quote that might come to this. I'll read it. This is a quote by George Bernard Shaw. It
Oh,
says,
a playwright, you say?
yes, yes, yes. The reasonable man adapts himself to the world, and the unreasonable one persists in trying to adapt the world to himself. Therefore, all progress depends on the unreasonable man. So, because of
Oh, yeah.
unreasonable men and women, and we are able to keep pushing the envelope and finding new and improved ways of living. And it only takes, especially nowadays, it only takes somebody to light up a fire with an idea for it to really catch on and
Right.
and ignite the
It's
minds of
true.
others. And
Yeah.
sometimes these ideas don't have to be technology. It's like,
Yeah.
was this girl's name Greta Van Thorn? Like, she's a young girl with brilliant ideals of science
Um,
and looking out for our environment. So I feel that there's hundreds and thousands of people with things to say and to better our world, and hopefully those people will lead the change of how our society evolves from being same old. I don't think that we're going to be living the same way in the next few decades.
Yeah.
A lot of the whole new normal that COVID has prompted, who knows, this is really a moment
Yeah.
to reevaluate how the new normal is going to be going forth. And I'm not just talking
You
about wearing masks. I'm not just talking about, oh, Zoom. I'm talking about really like, why was this life this way, and how should we
yeah.
live from now on?
You mentioned before how pervasive all of this is, right? And to that point, even our money has become digital. How are we gonna see all of that changing? Like, I have no idea how Bitcoin giga nothing works. And it's a like I see it everywhere, and like people are on their Instagram like cling, and making money and choo choo choo. And people who did it back when it first started, then they looked and like, oh, now I have like $5,000. Que lindo. So, how? I want $5,000 in gigabits.
Well,
I don't
that
understand
the,
it. I
the
know
whole
it's there. I just don't know what it means.
the whole thing about cryptocurrency is that
Eso, cryptocurrency.
cryptocurrency is really it's really just, in my opinion, a reality of how trade and financial technology has to evolve, and it's a reality, right? But the main issue and the main point here is that most of the world's currency is regulated by the governments of each state, right? And there's this whole system between nations about exchange rates that occurs due to each country's own ability to produce and exchange goods. And there's a lot of complexities that exist because of trade agreements and so forth. First of all, right now we have a world that, even though we have flags and borders and everything, the reality is that a lot of these things are blurred, right? I could be talking to somebody in a different part of the world and sending them information and money, and there's nothing really that could stop that from happening. Same thing will be happening with money. So now this is kind of like a concept of having universal currency, or not a single universal currency, but different types of currency that are digital tender. So cryptocurrency is just maybe like a precursor to a future in which we don't necessarily have to have a single currency or denomination of money by a country, right? This is maybe enabling the future for everything to be digital and not necessarily regulating the value of money. Again, this is maybe a subject that transcends just technology. I know how the
Right.
bits and bytes of the cryptocurrency piece work, but on the aspect of how that really fits in our future, that's
Go right over my head.
yeah,
That's
no,
an interesting thought, though, because when was the last time you carried cash? I don't. I don't remember.
It's either
Like,
I pay with my phone or I pay with my card.
I
I don't know how to pay with phone. I don't even tell me.
well, it's very interesting. I usually don't like carrying cash, but somehow I always feel that I have to have at least a
I always
few
have.
bills on me. And you know what I always end up using it for? I always end up using to give it to somebody at the corner of a red light that feels that
Me
probably needs it more
también.
than I do. But yeah, I mean, cash is, at least in the U.S., like, if it has the ability for most merchants to let you even buy just a bubble gum
Yeah.
with a credit card. In some other countries that you have a higher minimum, so yeah, you probably still
Yeah.
need
Right.
cash.
I mean, I have a whole. Let it be clear. I appreciate the technologies. I don't always understand it, but I appreciate it. I don't think it's the root of all evil by any stretch of the imagination, but I do have my ethical qualms with it, right? Because in those blurry lines of countries and flags and governmental boundaries and cryptocurrencies, we have, these it aids and it gives indirectly and unintentionally, it gives an advantage to things like the black market
Hmm.
and human trafficking and things like that. That how can you even fight that shit? You can't see it, right? And you
Well,
have these like task forces that are online, posing as children to catch pedophiles, but it goes so the scope of that is so much greater. So it's like that's where I talk about that balance of like scary as shit,
Mm-hmm.
beneficial, really helpful, really great, brilliance, innovation. And then also, there's always that person that's going to use something innovative and amazing for evil, and then the ones that use it for good.
yeah.
That's where I am more afraid of that something so good can be used for something so terrible, and that's where I'm like
And people
scared.
hide. They hide in this lovely little matrix. They can hide and disappear or live as a freaking avatar that you'll never know where it's coming from. And
It's
maybe that's just me watching too much Criminal Minds. But
but it's true though, and it's a very sad thing, you know. Everything has its two sides, good and bad. It just depends on the person, you know, like who's using it. So don't even get me started
true
on that.
statement.
No, but you know what? Going to the point that Chewy brought earlier about, for instance, privacy is one concern. Another concern you're bringing up is like how is technology used for good or evil, right? Um, for instance, the whole debacle of the manipulation of or intervention of foreign uh, interests in the
Mhm.
U.S. election. Do you understand exactly what it is that was really being investigated? In a nutshell, really, it's not like Russians hacked or there's no actual claims that there was anything irregular in terms of hacking or bypassing technology or anything. It was actually using something that was already there, for instance, Facebook ads to funnel money in a way to divert or redirect ads for misinformation or for specifically campaigning and targeting certain groups to really polarize the social groups. I mean, that's basically what they're trying to claim. So it's kind of like imagining this. Imagine in a physical aspect, not online, right? Because this is something that was done online by potentially uh, external interests outside of the country. But this is basically like imagine I'm a country and I just like pay people to go, into different cities with a sign and saying, "Hey, vote for this candidate or vote for another candidate." It's exactly that. And that doesn't necessarily seem wrong, but it's not really part of how a domestic democracy works. It's really
Right.
for the people that live in the territory. But so basically what you're saying is like with misuse of a technology that wasn't really designed to prevent that type of thing, it was potentially maliciously used against uh, you know a country and its democracy. So that's one of the things that can happen with technology, potentially misinformation, like the age old saying like, oh, if it's on the internet it's true. That's one of the things about
Mhm.
technology nowadays, that hey, it's if it's online it's definitely true. So it's really hard to filter what is the truth or what is not. What they were
Yeah.
saying the other day is like, all these social media outlets that are so capable of tailoring information to your particular persona based on your interest and your likes and who you follow or who you don't follow. So for instance, if I go on my Facebook, I see information that's catered to me, not, and if I go on my mom's Facebook or on somebody else's Facebook, their information is completely
Mhm.
different. But if I go on
Right.
Wikipedia, on your computer, on my computer, it's the same information supposedly, right? So
Right.
it's kind of like how do we have, you know who decides what information is true or not? It's really hard to do that in today's world, especially, they don't have authoritative sources. It's just really a lot of potential misinformation. That's one of the challenges that
That's true.
technology poses too.
Like Wikipedia, you could add whatever you want. You could go edit it, and nobody ever
You don't
know.
know who's
So
putting that there.
that's true.
Well, I mean,
So, Mr.
fortunately,
Carlos.
what's that?
No, no, go ahead. I was going to brilliantly tie this up with a bow, but go ahead. You have another thought. Share.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, these are just qualms that we have with that people are thinking, how do we handle these issues that, these weren't problems 10, 20 years ago. These are
Yeah.
things that are new challenges that arise based on the disruption that occurs with new technologies that arise. For instance, all these things that are coming out right now. Yeah, okay, how great is it to have Google Home or an Alexa? These devices are listening 24/7 to everything we
Shubi's like, no,
say.
and I love my Google.
No,
You know, things like, okay, for instance, the immersiveness that like virtual reality can pose. Right now, yeah, sure, we have this little helmet. You put it on, and oh, it's so cool. It looks so real. It's so fun. Yada yada. These are not things that people did or were exposed to years ago. But just imagine if somebody, for some, even if they're doing it for fun, how they used to say, hey, somebody's watching TV too many hours, they're going to fry their eyeballs or their brain's going to go. Imagine if somebody is continuously immersed, not just even playing video games, because that's another thing. Like, there's people that live in video games. There's people that play video games, and then this was being said earlier, for many hours, right? There's maybe nothing wrong with that, but imagine somebody that actually puts on a headset and is inside a world that
Yeah.
maybe doesn't look very much different because of like how incredibly
There's TV shows
realistic the
like that now.
graphics are. Right. So you are inside this virtual reality world, and this is a marvel of technology, but then you're in it and you're fascinated by it, and it's maybe better than your boring reality. Imagine if you're, just stuck at home, bored, not doing anything, and you're in this virtual world. You prefer being in there, and then you start dissociating that world from another one, and you
Wow.
prefer being in that world. It's maybe completely hypothetical, but it's
Balance.
these are things that can happen with new
Yeah.
introduction of new things.
yeah, creepy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Technology is so. I am still old school. I don't want no one else. I know nothing. Play my music for you. I'm gonna go and put it on myself. Thank you. I can't.
We're retro, Shubi. We're retro.
So the other thing that's, and this, I mean, I'm going maybe too far ahead, but like even today, like a thing that we think, okay, this is helpful, uh, it probably has a lot of benefits, but like, the usage of wearable technology, like, okay, smartwatches or
Mm.
sleep trackers, or now there's a bunch of, you know I was reading the other day, like, um, for sleep apnea, instead of using a CPAP machine for breathing with a mask, now you have an implant that, like, if you snore, it just like triggers your mouth to open. Like, so it's kind of like a lot of things that are coming out, and you know
What?
yeah. So
Well,
I
but
mean,
you see, things like that, like medical advancements like that, are impressive to me. But then
right,
they're scary because you're still figuring it out, and somebody's got to be the guinea pig.
right,
My mom
but
was the
then
guinea
again,
pig for the Da Vinci machine, and now she's got a hernia. Like,
okay, but look, in the same documentary I was talking seeing about AI, it's like, well, the debacle of like, um there was this whole thing about, okay, should we allow cloning or stem cell research for creating organs for transplants for patients? This whole
mm,
ethical thing. But now they're like, oh no, we could just 3D print organs, and you need a liver, we'll 3D print a liver, things like that, or yeah, or
oh,
yeah. This one that I
I
saw
was
was actually
so late
pretty
to that party.
pretty
I didn't
fascinating.
even know.
This guy was a climber. He severed his ankle and was in great pain, and then they were talking about he needed to be amputated potentially to stop that pain. But this MIT researcher who actually had developed like bionic leg implants for himself, amazing functioning like implants, but this guy actually was also a climber himself and had lost his legs in an accident similarly. He said that, hey, since the civil wars and like since the middle ages, like people were amputated the same way. They just like, and he said like, hey, you know what, new study says like if you do like a more uh, um, careful procedure, they might actually be able to keep some of the nerves intact, and then those nerves will be able to be attached to a bionic leg, and the patient with the bionic implant would not just be able to send impulses to move the extremity of like their robotic leg, but also feel. And this is a thing now. Now you apparently can feel like like on a yeah.
Wow.
So these are
That's for
things.
good news.
Yeah. So you think, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Medical advances, good things like
Yeah, like the
uh,
cochlear implants. Those that to me is amazing, impressive, beautiful.
So
Other
where
things
I'm
I don't
going
know.
with this, like AI in this case was used because what they say is like patients might forget exactly how to send impulses to their missing limbs, but AI is able to kind of like bridge like the missing part with some training of neural pathways and whatnot. So it kind of like does the
Wow.
a lot of the legwork. Yeah. So I mean, there's just a lot of amazing things that are coming.
Bueno, Mr. Carlos. You know, I lot my mind has been blown a lot during this conversation, and also just a bunch of other questions. Because tech savvy, I am not. Uh, I'm not. If you guys have any other questions, this is your chance because we're gonna start wrapping up soon. Do you have any other questions, comments, concerns, Chubby?
I don't know. I
Your
also
mind is equally as blown. I see it.
I don't like technology. I don't like technology in those ways where people could automatically just talk to their phone and the phone does everything. People can't remember other people's phone numbers anymore. I don't. Like I try to remember people's phone number just because that's how
I know
we
maybe three numbers by heart. I'm terrible. I'm that
there's a
person you're talking about.
and then you could talk to your TV to turn on by itself. No, I'm gonna go get my batteries, put it on the controller, I'm gonna turn the TV on. Excuse me. Like that's
I,
who I am. But I'm not telling that it's a bad thing for those who, do it. Good for you guys. But I am such an I'm not saying that I don't want to advance with technology. It's just that I don't find it useful to me. I still want to go
right.
outside and, feel the grass on my feet type of person. Technology is great when it comes to medical advances, but to like feel your heart rate for no reason, I think is useless. I don't need a watch telling me unless it's for medical purposes. You
All
gotta
right.
keep it. Pero además, that's me. That's
I've
me.
learned I've learned to use technology more frequently. You move with the times. You have to, especially during this particular pandemic. Me tuve que poner las pilas when learning about certain things to
Yeah.
be able to continue to teach or to record things. I mean, people go to school now to get degrees to be social media marketing specialists, to be content creators, right? You can get a degree in that shit. People, you need experience in it, and that requires knowledge of certain things. And I can defend myself, but clearly there's a lot to be learned. Clearly. Um, Carlos, any comments, questions, concerns, final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
Well, I've always been an advocate for technology, but at the end of the day, it really boils down to advocating for how it could be beneficial for us as people. Like, for instance, I've learned over time a lot of the things that sometimes hold me back as a professional or as a person, and I'm somehow, some way, I've always found something in technology to help me as as an aid to keep me on my toes, to help me have an edge, to be able to achieve my goals. And again, I definitely always realize how you were saying, Chibi. Like I always remember a lot of my friends growing up in school that were probably more grounded to not being techie, and I always wondered why, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that because it keeps me grounded too, and it also keeps me human. Not having to be overly reliant on technology. So I have it as a pocket knife, so to say, and not as a vehicle, as my only avenue for doing things. So definitely, I'm excited about what new things come into horizon, and hopeful and optimistic that technology helps us overcome a lot of the challenges that we're facing as a society. So thank you for having me today. This has been really fun talking about
Thank you so much
fun
for
things.
being here and for sharing your knowledge. I said genius because I said genius. I said what I meant and I meant what I said. Take the compliment. Take it. Keep it. Thank
But
you
yes,
so
thank
much.
you. I learned some stuff today, so thank
I
you for
did.
that. Different
I think from
perspective.
yeah, I think from what you last said, I think that's I've shared my thoughts throughout, but I think that's something that's big for me because the three of us here, I think we're human lover, like in the sense of humanity, right?
Yeah,
My
yeah,
biggest fear would be because we already see so much of it, that disconnect, and that we see a lot now, that call to vulnerability, the call to connection, but we have this thing that's teaching us to be little cyborgs, that we don't have to connect past a certain level of comfort. So I hope that we can fight that and find the balance, right? That this is not this, right?
right.
And I don't know that it would ever take the place of that for
It's
me.
funny you said that. That actually reminds me when I was about to choose my career path, uh, leaving high school and pursuing studies in college. IT was my fifth choice.
What was the first? I'm curious.
Actually, it was music. Followed
Which he still does, by the way.
yeah,
But what
but
did
Song on SoundCloud.
what's that?
what did you end up doing though? Because
Information
I,
technology. Yeah.
oh, okay.
I mean,
I'm curious to know two, three, and four.
life decisions. Sometimes you have to choose things
Demonies.
Yeah,
yeah.
Demonies.
But I mean, I again, it wasn't. I put it as a fifth choice, but entirely like I am really passionate about it. But like there were other things that like I probably had maybe like some bigger calling to from the heart, but perhaps not entirely all the reasons that needed to happen at the time I made that choice.
But now you found the balance.
Yeah, as always.
You use the tech to do the music. Haha. Success. Thank you so much, God. You don't have to go anywhere. We're gonna say our goodbyes. You're just gonna sit there and smile, bonito, and say goodbye with us. You mentioned a book. Say the name of the book again so we can put it in the comments for everybody
Yeah,
if they're
this
interested
book
in the
is
book.
called "Thank You for Being Late: An Optimist's Guide in the Age of Accelerations" by Thomas Friedman. The reason I like this book is because it frames a lot of what has happened in the last couple of decades in a very layman's terms, and something that really puts it also in a very human perspective. Um, I don't want to extend myself too much because we are saying our goodbyes, but basically, it's an interesting question nowadays because I still get asked this by a lot of people, even parents, like, what is this whole cloud thing exactly? What is the cloud?
I,
And
I just
actually,
know that my stuff goes there when
yeah,
I
and
back it
it
up.
talks exactly very, very, very clearly about how the phenomenon of an interconnected world has how it's shaped even you know the history in the last 10, 15 years. But very, very good book.
use the
Thank you.
cloud of the whatever that thing is. I still save it to my SD card, external, old school.
We're using the cloud right now for this podcast, so you definitely are using it.
Oh, snap.
Well,
It's
I
true.
personally
That's how it
use.
saves the recording. Like Carlos, tech for the win.
I still don't use
Okay.
it personally, so
And the
estamos bien.
social dilemma on Netflix. If Netflix does not become one of our sponsors, Chubby, it's gonna be on like Donkey Kong. We mention them almost every damn episode, or at least I do.
We see it a lot. Yeah, yeah.
We
I mean,
do all the time.
that's true.
Um, thank everybody for watching. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back Monday live with our next episode, which is why can't I remember what it is?
I don't know. I can just
My brain.
remember.
You'll see it when we post it because I don't remember.
It's okay. It's okay. We have a lot of other things in our brain right now, so it's okay. But thank you everybody for watching. I hope you guys learned as much as we did. I think we did, didn't we?
This was a
We have more
massively
questions.
informative episode. Do
We have
not
more
expect all
questions.
of it.
The more you know.
Yes.
And so happy
There
to
we
have
go.
a special guest.
Yes, thank you again. And I don't know. Remember to stay fearless, everybody.
Stay fearless, fam.